Welcome back to Narrations. Here, you can listen to classic holiday movies, familiar family stories, and comforting films that feel like home, especially during the Christmas season. Tonight's movie is Christmas with the Kranks, a Christmas comedy about tradition, pressure, neighbors, and what happens when one family dares to step away from expectations everyone else takes for granted. This is a story about a quiet street, loud opinions, and a holiday that means very different things to different people. For years, Christmas on Hemlock Street has followed an unspoken rulebook. Lights appear right after Thanksgiving. Decorations are carefully placed. Lawns glow evenly from house to house. There are parties, gatherings, potlucks, and shared expectations, all repeated year after year, without question. And at the center of this carefully maintained routine lives Luther Krank. Luther is practical, methodical. He believes in planning ahead, sticking to budgets, and doing things the way they've always been done. He works hard, pays attention to details, and takes pride in being responsible. For Luther, structure equals stability. His wife Nora balances him gently. She enjoys Christmas, the music, the traditions, the warmth, but she also understands the effort behind it. She bakes, decorates, hosts, and smiles through obligations, year after year, because that's what's expected. For decades, they've done Christmas the same way. Until this year. This year, their daughter Blair is gone. She's moved away, living her own life, building her future. And for the first time, the Krank house feels different. Quieter. Larger. Emptier. The decorations sit untouched in storage. The familiar excitement doesn't arrive on schedule. Instead, there's a strange stillness, one that Luther notices more than he wants to admit. It starts with numbers. Luther sits at the kitchen table, surrounded by receipts from past Christmases. Decorations. Food. Parties. Gifts. Cards. Travel. Small expenses that add up into something far larger than anyone realizes when they're spread across tradition. He calculates everything carefully. The total shocks him. Thousands of dollars. Every single year. And Luther asks a question that no one on Hemlock Street has ever dared to ask out loud. What if we skip Christmas? Not cancel it for everyone. Not cancel the holiday itself. Just skip it for them. Nora laughs at first, thinking it's a joke. Christmas is Christmas. You don't just opt out. But Luther isn't joking. He's serious. Thoughtful. Calm. He suggests something radical. Instead of spending weeks decorating, shopping, hosting, and pretending everything is perfect, they could do something else. They could take a cruise. Sunday warmth. Peace. No obligations. No forced cheer. No judgment. Just the two of them. At first, Nora resists. Christmas has always mattered to her. Even when it's tiring, even when it's stressful, it still means something. But as Luther talks, she starts to feel something unexpected. Relief. The idea of not performing Christmas, not decorating, not hosting, not meeting expectations, feels strangely freeing. Especially with Blair gone. Especially with the house so quiet. After years of saying yes out of habit, they say no. They decide to skip Christmas. No tree. No lights. No parties. No gifts. Just December, and then a plane to somewhere warm. They don't announce it. They don't make a speech. They simply stop participating. And that's when Hemlock Street notices. The decorations go up everywhere except the Krank house. Lights glow warmly across the neighborhood, while the Krank's home remains dark, undecorated, and silent. The absence stands out more than any decoration ever could. Neighbors begin whispering. Questions turn into judgment. At the center of the neighborhood response stands Vic Frohmeyer, the self-appointed guardian of Christmas tradition. Vic doesn't just enjoy Christmas. He enforces it. He keeps mental notes on who decorates, who participates, and who doesn't. To Vic, Christmas isn't personal. It's communal. And the Kranks have broken the unspoken contract. Vic confronts Luther politely at first, asking about decorations, suggesting timelines, reminding him of how things are done. Luther responds calmly, explaining that they're skipping Christmas this year. The reaction is immediate. Disbelief. Disapproval. Thin smiles masking irritation. On Hemlock Street, Christmas isn't optional. The pressure builds quickly. A massive Frosty the Snowman is placed directly across from the Kranks' undecorated house, glowing brightly, towering over their dark lawn like a silent accusation. It's framed as festive. But the message is clear. You are not participating. And everyone can see it. Nora begins to feel the weight of it everywhere she goes. At the grocery store. At work. In conversations that suddenly feel colder, shorter, more judgmental. She's asked questions that aren't really questions at all. Aren't you decorating this year? Is everything okay? Don't you miss it? Luther remains stubborn. The more pressure he feels, the more he digs in. To him, this has become a matter of principle. They're not hurting anyone. They're just opting out. But the neighborhood doesn't see it that way. Christmas, to them, isn't just about joy. It's about conformity. As December progresses, the conflict escalates. Vic demands the Kranks display Frosty to maintain street harmony. Luther refuses outright. The argument spreads. People take sides. Friendly neighbors turn passive-aggressive. Christmas becomes tense instead of joyful. Inside the Krank house, the effects are subtler but deeper. Without decorations, the house feels hollow. The silence feels heavier than expected. Nora misses the small comforts, the music, the lights, the familiar smells. She doesn't say much at first, but doubt creeps in. Luther notices it too, even if he doesn't admit it. Skipping Christmas was supposed to bring peace. Instead, it's brought isolation. And then, just days before Christmas, everything changes. The phone rings. It's Blair. She's coming home. Not alone. She's bringing her fiancé. And his parents. And she's expecting Christmas. A full Christmas. Traditions. Decorations. Dinner. Warmth. The cruise is cancelled instantly. Plans evaporate. Panic replaces calm. They have no tree. No decorations. No food. No gifts. The very thing they rejected is now the only thing standing between them and disappointing their daughter. Nora springs into action, overwhelmed but determined. Luther freezes, realizing that avoiding Christmas didn't make it disappear, it just delayed it. And now, the clock is ticking. Christmas is back. And they are completely unprepared. As Christmas Eve approaches, the Kranks stand surrounded by the consequences of their choice, caught between pride, regret, and the realization that skipping Christmas didn't free them from expectations. It only changed who those expectations came from. The news of Blair's return hangs in the air like a ticking clock. The moment the phone call ends, the house that once felt peacefully empty now feels unbearably unprepared. Nora stands still for a moment, staring at the walls, imagining what Blair will see when she walks through the door: the bare corners, the missing decorations, the absence of everything that once made Christmas feel familiar. Panic sets in quickly. Nora moves first. She starts making lists, dialing numbers, opening closets, searching for anything that might resemble Christmas. Boxes are dragged out from storage. Old decorations are dusted off. Half-forgotten ornaments are unpacked in a rush. Nothing feels intentional. Everything feels frantic. Luther watches stunned. This was supposed to be simple. This was supposed to be a break. Instead, it's chaos. The cruise tickets are cancelled without hesitation. Money is no longer the concern. Time is. Christmas Eve is almost here, and the Kranks are suddenly racing to rebuild a holiday they intentionally dismantled. Nora calls stores. Shelves are empty. Decorations are sold out. Trees are scarce. Food is limited. Everyone else prepared weeks ago, and now it's too late. Outside, Hemlock Street glows brighter than ever. The neighbors notice the sudden activity at the Krank house immediately. Decorations appear overnight. A tree is dragged inside. Lights flicker on and off as Nora struggles to make everything look presentable. The sudden reversal draws attention. Whispers turn into curiosity. Curiosity turns into quiet judgment. Luther feels exposed, not just for skipping Christmas, but for failing at it too. As the pressure mounts, the biggest problem becomes painfully clear. There is no Christmas dinner. No turkey. No ham. No backup plan. Nora, exhausted and overwhelmed, finally reaches the breaking point. For weeks, she's absorbed the neighborhood's disapproval quietly, smiling through cold looks and pointed comments. But now, with Blair's arrival hours away, pride no longer matters. Survival does. She steps outside and does something she never imagined she'd have to do. She asks for help. The request travels faster than gossip ever did. At first, the response is hesitant. These are the same neighbors who felt insulted, judged, and dismissed by the Kranks' decision to skip Christmas. Old resentment lingers in cautious expressions and folded arms. But slowly, something changes. Someone offers a turkey. Another neighbor brings decorations. Someone else volunteers desserts. A casserole appears. Then another. What starts as obligation turns into cooperation. The street begins to move, not in judgment, but in support. Luther watches this unfold in disbelief. For the first time all season, he sees Christmas not as pressure or performance, but as something collective. Not perfect. Not polished. But human. Inside the house, the dinner comes together piece by piece, mismatched, imperfect, and unexpectedly warm. Plates don't match. Decorations aren't symmetrical. Nothing looks like it did in previous years. And yet, the house feels alive again. When Blair finally arrives, travel-worn and smiling, she takes everything in quietly. She notices the rushed decorations. The unfamiliar energy. The neighbors moving in and out with food and laughter. But she doesn't criticize. She hugs her parents tightly. She sees the effort. She feels the love behind the chaos. The dinner begins. It isn't elegant. Conversations overlap. Food is passed awkwardly. Laughter erupts unexpectedly. People share stories instead of schedules. For the first time all season, no one is trying to prove anything. The pressure dissolves. Later that night, the neighborhood gathers outside. The lights glow softly along Hemlock Street, no longer symbols of enforcement, but of shared presence. The giant Frosty no longer feels like an accusation, just another decoration among many. Luther steps forward. For weeks, he's defended his decision with logic, budgets, and principles. But standing there now, surrounded by neighbors who chose to help instead of punish, his arguments feel small. He admits the truth, not with sarcasm, not with stubbornness, but with humility. He wasn't wrong for wanting a break. But he was wrong for forgetting what Christmas connects. It isn't just a holiday. It's a shared moment. The neighbors listen. Even Vic Frohmeyer, the strict enforcer of tradition, softens. He sees what the situation really was, not rebellion, but exhaustion. Not defiance, but a family learning what matters when routines fall away. The tension that once ruled Hemlock Street fades. Snow begins to fall gently, settling on rooftops and glowing lights. People linger longer than planned. Conversations stretch. Laughter returns. Inside the Krank home, Blair sits with her parents, sensing a shift. Christmas doesn't feel forced anymore. It feels chosen. Luther looks around and finally understands what Nora felt all along. Skipping Christmas wasn't about saving money. It was about control. And control, he realizes, can never replace connection. Christmas morning arrives quietly. No crowds. No spectacle. No rigid schedule. Just a peaceful house, warm light through windows, and the sound of people moving slowly instead of rushing. The Kranks didn't reclaim Christmas the way they once knew it. They reclaimed it differently. With humility. With gratitude. With community. Because Christmas isn't about decorations being perfect. It isn't about meeting expectations. It isn't about doing everything right. It's about being there, for your family, for your neighbors, and for each other, even when plans fall apart. Christmas with the Kranks is a story about pressure, pride, and the quiet realization that sometimes stepping away from tradition helps you understand why it mattered in the first place. And that the heart of Christmas isn't found in routines. It's found in people. If you enjoy listening to Christmas movies, family holiday stories, and familiar seasonal films like this one, you'll find many more here. Like the video if you enjoyed this story, share it with someone who loves Christmas movies, and subscribe for more holiday narrations throughout the season. Thanks for listening, and Merry Christmas.